What's up, guys? So I've got another profile, and this is going to be Trap Eldlich. I actually think this deck is sleep OP, this format. In the OCG right now, the best two decks are PK and Eldlich. And it's simply because Eldlich, unlike all the other decks, so we have a lot of really busted combo decks that set up nuts boards, and then we also have decks like Floodgates which stun you, and Eldlich doesn't care about either of that. The nuts boards, like what is that deck called again? Lyrill's Tri-Brigade board. It can only deal with one back row removal. This deck only runs back row pretty much. I run like 35 traps or 36 traps. Oh, no, I run like 32. But anyway, yeah, this deck runs so many traps, and so it can't deal with that many. And then things like Floodgates has got such an easy matchup again because their barrier statue, their M-Pen on field, cards like that you don't really care about at all. Yeah, they run Shifter, but that's about it. And then also I've got a couple of techs in this deck as well that make it, the main weakness of Eldlich was obviously losing your Golden Lords, but I've got techs that really help circumvent that. And the combination of those factors just make this deck so strong. I really think, and it's just been reprinted as well in the new Eldorado set. So I really think if you're looking for a budget meta deck, this is definitely a really good one to pick up. Honestly, it just destroys everything at the moment. I was going to take this to the OTS Championship. I ended up taking Tri-Brigade Lyrill's instead because I do think that is the best deck. But I've been taking this to locals a lot and just doing really well with it because it's amazing. If I do go to regionals, I might play this instead. We'll see. But yeah, so we'll start for the monsters. We play 2 Golden Lord. Yeah, so there's a lot of philosophy on what to play. I would say before, like I said, the biggest problem is often you'll be scared to almost use this effect because things like Sky Striking can banish it, which is really frustrating. But now there's a certain card I'm playing on my extra deck that just means that I don't care if you banish my Golden Lord because I'm getting it back. And so I'm confident enough to play this at 1. It just so happens that playing it at 2 is nice for OTKs and stuff as well. But yeah, so you play 2 of those. Play 1 Ecclesia, you only need her really as another copy of Punishment. Yeah, I don't play Nadir in the main deck. That was something that I actually took from someone else's profile. And yeah, she's just good all day. Nice for a little bit of extra damage. Nice as a way to get that copy of Punishment and just a plus in the deck. This deck doesn't have an easy way of accessing its win condition usually. And so you need to just kind of accrue advantage over time over your opponent. And that's what Ecclesia does for you. Then we play 3 Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card is busted. This card is insane. Its protection effect is nice, but it's really the second effect that makes it so good for Eldlich because it just gives Eldlich, again, like I said, the problem with trap decks like this is that your win condition is often either very slow to activate or it's hard to do in the first place. This makes it so easy because obviously it's going to protect your back row, which is nice, so you don't get blown out by lightning storms and stuff. But then also it's going to set any spell or trap from your deck, which means you can do things like set Extrav, and now suddenly you've drawn 2 and you've plussed ahead of your opponent. You can set an Nadir Servant if you're playing that in your deck, and now you have spot removal. You can set a Judgment or Strike to protect yourself against OTK the next turn, and it's also 3k body in level 10, which again helps to facilitate OTKs in this deck. This card is so amazing. It's also really good going second because a lot of the times when your opponent knows you're playing a back row deck, they'll do things like set Twisters, and then end phase they'll just pop your back row. Well, you can activate this straight away in your hand, then set your cards, and now your opponent can't do that. So for example, Sword Soul with Sword Soul Blackout, it's really good because they can't just blackout pop your back row. This card is so amazing. I never side out all 3. Going second, sometimes I'll side out 1, but it's just so good. I don't even care if it conflicts with like border and stuff. I think the card is amazing, and it really makes back row decks OP at the moment. Then for the spells, we just play a bunch of consistency things. So and there's also, I play 3 Extrav, 2 Duality, 1 Demise, and I don't have it here, but 1 Call of the Call by the Brave as well. So I prefer Extrav over Prosperity again because this deck just needs advantage. You just want to accrue advantage over your opponent. And Prosperity is good for searching 1 card, but it has 2 problems. Firstly, it reveals 6 cards. I don't want my opponent to know every trap. Even Duality only revealing 3, I think I prefer that than my opponent revealing 6. Than me revealing 6 and them knowing I'm playing torrentials and stuff. Like, they'll think I am, but they don't know for sure. And then also, just because this gives me an extra card, and that extra card matters a lot because all of your traps are, well, not all, but most of them are fire and forget. You use them and then they're in the grave. And so unless they've immediately plussed you heavily then and there, you've lost advantage. So you will lose advantage over time. So Extrav is nice because you need those consistent pluses in your deck. Duality is nice because even though, like, obviously I don't want to reveal too much, it does have an advantage in terms of putting good cards in my hand. And then Demise. This is mostly a target of Heavenly Prison. It doesn't conflict. You would think it does, but it just doesn't really come up where it conflicts. You don't have to set every card in your hand, by the way, guys. You don't have to use every card the turn you get. So a lot of times if I got this, I'm just holding it in my hand, and then suddenly my opponent thinks they cleared my field, and then I activate Demise and I'm back in the game. But yeah, it's a good card. Call by the Grave. It didn't come up today, but it's a good card. Yeah, just play it. If it's at 1, play it. If it's at 3, play it. I don't see a reason why I wouldn't. Then for the traps, so that's the meat of the deck. So the Eldlich ones, we play 3 Eldlich of Scarlet Sanguine, 3 Conquistador, 2 Huaquero. Standard ratios. Occasionally I miss the 3rd Huaquero, but because I'm playing Ice Dragon's Prison in the main deck, I have pseudo graveyard removal in terms of that. But yeah, this is just really, really good. The Eldritch cards are so good, obviously, because they all kind of recur each other. So as soon as you've got one, you've got all of them. But yeah, they come up a lot, which is really, really nice. Then play 3 Punishment, 3 Tribute, 2 IDP, 2 Trap Trick. So this is my main deck package. Punishment is just really, really good in the main deck. That's why we play 3 of them. Same as Torrential. These 2 are really good in terms of clearing your opponent's board. That's their main purpose. Now, you do have a bit of a weakness with Punishment, obviously, because if your opponent has a really big monster, you don't have that many high attack targets. I'm actually playing 1 or 2 just because of that. But in spite of that, it's still just a really, really good card. You do occasionally break on more than 1, but I still think it's worth playing at 3. 3 Torrential. This card's just cracked. Yeah, it's so good. It's so nice to be able to clear your opponent's board, and especially because in a deck like this, your opponent kind of has to play into it because they're going to have to commit resources to the board unless they directly have back row removal, especially game 1. So game 1, this just won me so many game 1s because I just set Torrential, my opponent does a bunch of stuff, and then I flip it, or I combo this with Strike and they can't negate it. It's just really busted. IDP, this is mainly just so you don't lose things like Dragoon. That's the main purpose of it. Having said that, it is good, this format, for decks like Sword Soul and stuff like that, but it's really because cards like Dragoon, you don't have an in-deck out to it, and so you just need to play this, otherwise you'll lose games for free. And 2 Trap Trick, this was probably the worst card. I don't like this card because it stuns my back row, and so it won't do a lot. But it stuns my back row and my opponent knows what's set, so unless I can use the card then and there, I think it's quite low value, and so I almost always side this out. But it's also because I just don't really have another idea of what I should play in this spot. Maybe if I own Droplet, I'd probably play Droplets as well, just because that's a good card. But yeah, 2 Trap Trick. Yeah, so that's the regular traps. Then we move on to our Floodgates. So you play 2 Gozen, 1 Order, 1 Skill Drain. They're busted. Imperial Order is also obviously a defensive card as well, which is really, really nice. Skill Drain, which it helps out a lot of the big threats, and goes a match. Even though a lot of decks are only playing 1 attribute, this is still just really, really good. It does come up because what you'll find is that you'll have a lot of decks that are only 1 attribute, but people go into generic boss monsters. And so like Sword Soul, for example, I have to say that's a bad example because it's a lot of attributes, but the point anyway, actually no, Lyrios Travian is a good example where they've got a lot of wins, but it's like their end board will be like a wind, fire, dark, a light, blah, blah. And so that's what this is really good for, cracking those kinds of boards. So it's a bit like Torrential Tribute sometimes to crack boards. And if the deck isn't a mono attribute deck, then it just wins the game, like against Sky Striker and stuff. They just can't play the game anymore, which is really, really nice. And obviously, your King of the Sky Prison is dark, but you don't have to use his his summon effect. You can just leave him to protect your back row. So yeah, really, really good card. I would side out a lot of the times, but yeah, still good card. Then lastly, just solemn busted cards, just saying no to things. This card was another one which I used to side this out a lot going second, but now I don't even side out going second because it's just so good. Your opponent tries to summon something crazy, you just judgment it, and then you win. Yeah, and Solemn Strike because it says no to monsters. Spell speed 3 or whatever, monster negate is always going to be really, really nice. But then we move on to the extra decks. So playing 1 Link Spider just for putting your cards in the grave. Canberra Arrestor, this card's amazing. So this is part of a combo you do with Dogmatica Maximus. You send him to the graveyard and he's basically a Phalanx for your set cards, which is really great. So it's just an amazing card. Yeah, I'm really happy about it. Play the 1 Ferriget just to shuffle. Sucker is nice because she allows you to modulate your hand a bit, which therefore means that you're gonna just brick less. Obviously she clashes a bit with Extrav, so you don't send her off if you use Extrav, but she's just sorry, I'm talking about Ferriget. Sucker allows you to go into lines of play, which allows you to OTK. So sometimes you'll end on like a Conquistador and a Golden Order. You need to boost up your Golden Order sign and also put your thing in the grave. Sucker allows you to do that. And then also her draw effect is kind of nice. Yeah, then we play 3 Elder Entity Entis. Pop is good. Titaniclad, Searches in the End phase is good. Then this card, which is amazing, Deep Sea Prima Donna. So I was playing 3, I did cut it down to 2, but this card is amazing. When she's sent to the graveyard, she shuffles a banished card into the deck. Doesn't care if it's face up or face down, it just has to be a banished card. And this is what, in my opinion, gives so much strength to this deck now, because it basically means that even if they banish my Golden Lord, I literally don't care. They banish my Golden Lord and then I turn around and I just put it back in the deck. It also means I can get away with playing things like 1 Sucker and 1 Link Spider, and I will still consistently get into them when playing Extrav, because it's rare that you're going to banish both of your Extrav, and so it means that you can always put back in your extra deck or in your deck what you need. So this card is just so good. I really feel like if you're playing the Golden Lord deck, definitely play this in your deck because it just does so much. Yeah, it's such a busted card. Then play the 1 Omega just for recycling, 1 Wind Pegasus just because it's nice and your opponents will run into it. And then Pleiades, Gustav, and Zeus. Pleiades and Zeus I never went into. Yeah, there's just always better things to do with your resources than go into these 2 cards. Gustav will go into a lot now. King of the Sky Prison makes it so easy to get in this. So Sky Prison plus your Golden Lord plus this is game. And so that's what makes that's another thing that makes Sky Prison so good, because you have a win condition now that you can really readily and easily access. I was playing Leap before, but it just didn't come up. There was actually one game yesterday at my locals where having Leap would have been nice, but it just doesn't come up enough in my opinion to be relevant. Then for the side deck, so we play 3 border, yeah, and the philosophy goes that you obviously side in the borders. When you know you're going first in game 2 or 3, you side in border, and your opponent would have sided out a lot of their monster hate, which means they can't out border. Yeah, it's really good. It's also nice because, for example, against Tri Brigade, you just normal summon it, and then you set cards and you pass, and then they have to activate Revolt then and there, because they have to activate Revolt then and there, because obviously they don't want your traps to be live. But when they activate Revolt, they'll only get 1 effect, because they only have 1 type of monster on the board. And so they'll either get the banish or they get like 1 search, which helps mitigate the problems of things like Revolt. So this card's just really good. Really like the card. And it's also just hard for decks to out. Then this, played 3 Nadir Servant, 1 Maximus. So yeah, the reason why Nadir is on the side obviously is because the only thing you're really searching is punishment. And you've already got 4 copies of punishment. There's no point playing more copies of punishment. You're just making yourself break. But yeah, when you're going second or in game 2, you can side in this package. When you're going second, you can side in the Nadirs, which is good because it's basically removal. Or game 2 and game 3, you can just side it in, so you have more back row protection, so you can send your Cranberry Wrestler to grave. Maximus is nice also because it's going to give you a bit of knowledge on your opponent sometimes. But yeah, just a nice package in general. Then we play 3 Evenly Matched and 3 Lava Golem. Amazing. Just out. There's no board you're afraid of. Literally, going second most of the time your main deck can deal with it. You just set 5 pass and then Torrential Strike or Punishment Strike or something. But even going second with these cards as well, it's just nutty. Like I was against Infernoble, like hand loop stuff, and I opened Lava Golem plus Extrav and I drew Torrential for turn, so I just Lava Golemed his board, next turn Torrentialed him, and then I won. Yeah, it's really good combo of cards. And then lastly, these 2 techs, which are just amazing this format, Necro Banshee and Zombie World. Okay, so here's the thing. There's a lot of decks right now that need specific types of cards to play the game. So Drytron, they need machines to use their ritual spell. Tri Brigades, they need Beast Warrior or Wing Beast to link summon. They need the cards to be that. Lyrilusk, they need Wing Beast to go into a lot of their monsters. These 2 cards are amazing because they stop that. They turn everything into zombies, and you can access Necro Banshee really easy in this deck. Obviously, if you haven't got Lord and Field, Sanguine will summon her from deck, and then quick effect she'll activate Zombie World. She can activate. What's even nicer as well, she can activate Zombie World from hand or deck. So if you draw Zombie World, it's still not a break, but you just activate Zombie World in that instance. But yeah, it just makes it really good because it means that you have kind of another pseudo floodgate that your opponent has to deal with. And obviously I play Gozen match as well. So you have access to the Gozen Zombie World lock, not Gozen, sorry, Rivalry Zombie World lock as well, which is really nice. But yeah, it's just so good. It's good enough that I would consider just playing 3 Zombie World, 1 Necro World, just because of how good Zombie World is into so many matchups at the moment. It really, it just destroys a lot of decks. They just can't play the game. You activate Zombie World and they're just like, okay, scoop, unless they have back row removal. So yeah, really good card. But anyway, yeah, guys, so that's the profile. Like I said, Eldlich is an amazing deck at the moment. It is super cheap. And it's just really easy to play as well. That's another thing I like about it as well. Like, there's not too much thinking you have to do. You're just playing a bunch of traps. And so that's another thing I really do love about this deck. But yeah, so give it a try, guys. Yeah, and I thank you all for watching. Peace.